Errol Spence calls the Terence Crawford fight a one-sided whooping. What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. Alright, y'all. So, yesterday it was announced that finally, after all these years of waiting, anticipating, back and forth between fans, Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Bud Crawford are going to get it on July the 29th of 2023. This is a huge fight. I think it's stunning to a lot of people because I haven't really heard a lot of people talking yet. I think everybody's kind of still in shock mode because it's actually going down. When we all were thinking it was going down, everybody was talking about it. It was a huge conversation going on. But now that it's actually happening, I think both sides, the Spence fans, the Crawford fans, they're kind of in sit-and-wait mode because nobody can believe it, I think, at this point, that it's actually going down. But it is going down, and it is going to go down very, very soon.
Kell Brook had went up to fight Triple G. He was too small. He got crushed. They rushed him within months to get back down to 147 to fight Errol Spence. He wasn't healed. Eyes still messed up. Weight drained, all that. Errol Spence wore him down, then, broke him down. The difference between when I fought him, he was already, fighting. He was on a 3-fight winning streak. And that is that. And I'm not no hater.
My thing is this. Who's going to win? Well, Errol Spence recently gave his take on how he feels like this fight's going to turn out. Terence Crawford, he started out a 130 fighter, undisputed down at the lower weights. Very credited fighter, very highly touted fighter. Should give Errol Spence a lot of problems according to the paperwork. My thing is Terence Crawford really that tested? Is Terence Crawford, has he been up against the type of competition that will actually prepare you for a fighter like Errol Spence? Or is this his cash-out fight? We saw him get a big payday with David Avanzi, and even though the fight didn't sell well, he made a lot of money off that fight. And I don't know if people have noticed, but, Terence Crawford's not the youngest guy out there either. And in his last interview that he did with Wallow and Gilly, he's graying up. So, that means he's aging. I'm not saying that gray hair means that you won't win a fight, but he's definitely getting older. And an extra year, on to what should have happened last year could mean that Terence Crawford, as a credible fighter, is already done. But he did knock David Avanzian out, so you got to think that he's going to go into this fight with every intention of winning. Now, Errol Spence said this is going to be a one-sided whooping. It could be a one-sided whooping. Errol Spence has been the king of 147 for a while. And, some people might say that it's because he didn't fight the best competition either. He only fought PBC fighters, and there were other fighters out there he could have faced up with.
When I look at Bud Crawford, right, and I look at Errol Spence, right, I say Bud is more accomplished. 3-division champion, undisputed champion. When I look at Errol Spence, I say Errol Spence fought better competition.
Me, I'm only disappointed in the fact that he didn't fight Pacquiao. I think that would have been his biggest and toughest fight. I think you would have saw Pacquiao do what we just witnessed Vasyl Lomachenko do. And I think a lot of people would have been shocked how Pacquiao went about that fight. But we didn't get it. We actually saw Pacquiao fight Ugas, and we all know what happened in that fight. And a lot of people feel like, well, Pacquiao would have got whooped the same way Ugas whooped him. It is what it is. Now, when it comes to this fight, is it that scenario to where all the Crawford fans think he's going to go in there and dominate Errol Spence because they watched him dominate a lot of other fighters, and when it all comes down to it, Errol Spence makes him look silly because he's not really as talented anymore or as talented as maybe he thought he was, similar to what happened to Pacquiao. That's how a lot of people feel about Pacquiao. Well, you talked all that trash about Earl, and then you got in there with Ugas, and he showed that you were old. Hey, it is what it is. I might not like it as a Pacquiao fan, but it definitely is what it is. And the same could go for Terence Crawford. It could be a situation where he just waited too long. Or maybe he planned this out the whole time. Like, hey, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down to Errol Spence. I'm going to make that my last fight. If I lose, I would have made a lot of money, and I can just say, hey, this is my last fight afterwards. So, it's almost like even if he loses, he's not going to lose. He's going to make a lot of money, and he could just retire after that. He's not signed with anybody. He has no more contractual obligations to any other promotional company, so he's not going to be forced to fight after the Errol Spence Jr. fight. So that's another scenario. What if he wins? If he wins, he might retire. If he wins and becomes undisputed, he might walk off into retirement with all those belts, and Errol Spence might not get a rematch. Although I believe, in my mind, there will have to be a rematch clause in there for Earl, especially since it's not going to be in Texas. Since it's going to be in Vegas, they're going to do it out Las Vegas. It seems like Earl kind of gave in on that as a negotiating term, maybe to make the fight. I'm sure he has a rematch clause in the contract based off of him, giving in a little bit on the negotiating side when it comes to having a neutral site fight. Me personally, man, this is going to be a great fight, I think. I think it's going to be one for the history books. It's going to depend on how the first 3 rounds play out. If Errol Spence is able to land some big shots within the first 3 rounds, I think it's going to be a long night for Terence Crawford. If Terence Crawford's able to jump on Earl early within the first 3 rounds and perhaps land some combinations, I would think that Errol Spence is going to have a little bit of trouble with Terence Crawford, but might be able to figure him out on the back end of the fight. It could be similar to the Devin Haney-Vasyl Lomachenko fight. It could be a situation of, Terence Crawford goes in there, tries to jump on him early, and gasses himself out, similar to what Devin did. Devin tried to jump on Vasyl early. Vasyl did the smart thing. He waited for him to gas himself out, and he turned it on, and he whooped that boy. That could go either way. It could be a situation where Earl goes in there, over-exudes himself, and gasses himself out early, and Terence Crawford does what Lomachenko did, which is wait to the later rounds and then turns on the speed. That could be very dangerous for Errol Spence. Me personally, I definitely feel like Earl, he's had a full year to game plan for this. Maybe even more than a year. Who was the last person he fought? Last person he fought was Udanius Ugas. I believe that was more than a year ago. So he's had more than a year to prepare for this fight. Believe me, that's the fighter he's been preparing for this whole time. He was never preparing for Keith Thurman. I never believed that fight was going to ever happen. And Terence Crawford fought David Evanzian last. And David Evanzian is nothing like Errol Spence. So who's more prepared in this situation? Who would you think is more prepared in this situation? Errol Spence, who's had a full year to do, hey, whatever. I'm not saying he's doing something he's not supposed to be, but it's possible he's had a full year to do it. And not only that, even if he's not, that's a full year you've had to train your body, redesign your body, work on your footwork, work on your hand speed, work on your timing. Everything could be fixed within a year. So, I would have to give Errol Spence, still the one-up in this fight. Even though I think what I saw in the Devin Haney-Vasyl Lomachenko fight has me a little worried about foot movement. I'm not that worried because Errol Spence has had a full year to work on all that. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all that down in the comment section below. Do y'all feel how Errol Spence Jr. feels? Is this going to be a one-sided whooping? Hit that like button for me. Sure. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's YouTube, that's Twitter. But you are more than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. If you'd like to collabo, feel free to hit my Gmail. It is flockofcards@gmail.com. And we are
Louis Keys, KY cutthroat, rolling up thumb, blowing smoke like a tugboat. If you know me, then you know I get my rep on. Big nasty green, I'm trying to get my Shrek on. Blue gun rack for me to sit my tech on. Blue guillotine for you to sit your neck on. Acting like a chick, you should probably have a dress on. High heels and wig, makeup and press on. See me in the club, I'm getting my two-step on. Bottle in my hand, I can use as a weapon. If you're out of order and getting your disrespect on. What's a hot track? Anything I put my breath on. Now when they heard this, everybody gon' feel it. Work in the back, make the car pop a willy. When I first dropped, they was acting all silly. Now I'm on fire, everybody gon' feel it. It's your boy Key, tell them who they dealing with. It's your boy Key, tell them who they dealing with. It's your boy Key, it's your boy Key, it's your boy Key, it's your boy Key. Now hating on me, anything I stand for, that's suicide like doors on the Lambo. Come through deep, that's how you get your man smoked. Try and give me that, that's how you get your hand broke. You out of line, you hate to be cold. I'm on the grind, I'm making the dough. Shorty low, her booty is scraping the floor. She don't know that I'm taking it though. I'm undefeated, I'm 80-0. They say I got an unhateable flow, and you know I gotta agree. You been heard for a block away, gotta be key. Now when they heard this, everybody gon' feel it. Work in the back, make the car pop a willy. When I first dropped, they was acting all silly. Now I'm on fire, everybody gon' feel it. It's your boy Key, tell them who they dealing with. It's your boy Key, tell them who they dealing with. It's your boy Key, it's your boy Key, it's your boy Key, it's your boy Key. Everybody gon' feel it. Make the car pop a willy. They was acting all silly. Now I'm on